Steam Deck fans are playing the victim. After like 3 years of whining about Nintendo constantly, pretending as if the Steam Deck was this huge cultural phenomenon, bigger than the iPhone. You know, you had people saying that the Steam Deck made Nintendo consoles obsolete, and they were constantly promoting piracy on the platform, right? Piracy on the console, I should say. You know, it was such one of the most forced, ridiculous things we've ever seen on YouTube, right? Steam Deck was never going to take off. It was never going to become successful. It was never popular. And yet, for like a good long while there, people seriously thought this thing was going to eclipse the Switch in relevancy. And of course, that never happened. And now that we have the Switch 2, which has already outperformed the Steam Deck, by the way, now that we have the Switch 2, the Steam Deck is completely obsolete. You know, the thing didn't even last 3 years. It sold less than the Wii U. You know, it was a complete train wreck. And now that Nintendo fans are pointing and laughing at Steam Deck fans for hyping up a dead platform, now they're playing victim. Oh, Nintendo fans are just obsessed. You know, like, I've been seeing a lot of, PC people, like, making these claims that, like, oh, Nintendo fans, they're obsessed with Steam Deck. Like, they make fun of us constantly. And, like, they really don't. Are they really going to try and pretend that they weren't the problem, you know? Like, are they really going to act as if you can't go back through, like, the past 3 years of Harmon Smith content and see me, you know, kind of expose these people and kind of talk about how ridiculous they were? Not only, like, with the Switch 2 situation, but even when the Switch 1 was still in the height of its relevancy. You know, Steam Deck fans were trying to say that, like, Steam Deck is better. Like, it was like embarrassing and unbelievably cringe. It was the gaming equivalent of like the brony community. Okay? Like, oh man, like our community likes sexualizing horses made for little girls. You know, we're big cloppers, so that means everyone should be a clopper. You know, like look at this. Look at like how many like YouTube views I get. Like, you know, being a clopper is normal. You know, like that's the mentality of the Steam Deck fans, because they don't have any degree of normalcy. You know, they don't have any games. Like, they don't really use their hardware. Their hardware isn't really that good, honestly. Right, compared to the Switch, it's like kind of embarrassing. Like, the Switch's price point is lower. Like, there is fundamentally no like advantage to owning a Steam Deck. Like, you know, people have pointed this out to me. Like, when was the last time you have ever heard a Steam Deck user actually playing Steam games on Steam Deck? You know, it's always just like, oh, I'm pirating some old Nintendo game, and it's just like, just own a Switch. It serves functionally no purpose other than to try and harass Nintendo fans. And all that's happened over the past several months is that, like, people have become aware, general audiences have become aware of the stereotype and are now clowning on them for it. And instead of, like, you know, just acknowledging the L and, like, you know, kind of moving on to their next piece of, like, you know, overrated hardware, you know, Valve fanboys, the steampunks, they are getting defensive. They don't like the fact that Nintendo fans are beginning to clown on PC gaming. You know, after decades of being told that PC gaming is superior and that we have all the best games, that we can just pirate everything for free, you know, people are beginning to step up and start condemning you for your actions. You know, people are beginning to realize that emulation is illegal. You know, people are beginning to realize that modding hardware is illegal. And, you know, the age-old cope is that, like, well, Nintendo can't do shit. You know, that's becoming less and less true every day, you know, as they crack down on, like, you know, plagiarized projects like Pow World, as they go after, like, illicit fan projects that are trying to profit off their brand, as they try and, like, go after, like, you know, the modded hardware industry, you know, like, all of, like, the copes that PC gamers used to use to justify not owning Nintendo hardware is in the process of going up in smoke. And once it becomes like more mainstream among like the general Nintendo community to start condemning these people, to start condemning like, their weird mantras like, oh, it's morally correct to pirate Nintendo games, which is something I've seen like a lot of these people say. Like, once people start pushing back against these criminals, who should be in prison, like, it's going to completely implode, And this isn't some niche fringe aspect of the PC gaming community. This is what the PC community has become. A bunch of pirates who genuinely think they should be able to pirate games for free if companies don't give them what they want. And that's basically what this all boils down to, is that like pirates are just trying to justify their actions. They have no intention of actually coming out and delivering good, fresh, exciting, new, like, experiences on gaming PCs, because those don't exist. Like, all they care about is obsessively trying to take down Nintendo consoles and their games, and it's resulted in this culture that's like that's falling apart, because PC gaming isn't built up like upon liking games or playing a lot of games or caring about games or knowing a lot about them. Like, it's built up on this myth that PC gaming is inherently superior to console gaming. Even though that, like, even the most casual of casual gamers know that isn't true. In fact, like, that's the reality of the PC master race. At this point, like, I have more respect for like the annual sports game playing and the Call of Duty audience. That's how low the PC gaming community is. Like, they are lower than the mobile game community. They are just the bottom of the barrel, just degenerate, just unhinged trash. And this is, I think, probably the best example as to why. Because they took an L, they took a massive L, they hyped up a product to try and like dismantle the Switch's success. They really thought the Steam Deck would be a huge competitor for the Switch going forward, and now it can't be more obvious that just isn't the case at all. And what's even more embarrassing is that they still, to this day, try and refuse to classify Steam Deck as a video game console. It's just, it's really pathetic and sad, and it really does need to be more understood among gamers that we cannot take the PC master race seriously.